as I got into my 20s or 30s, that's when I really became a seeker of health, if you will. And I've tried everything: paleo, Weight Watchers, Slim Fast. The constant, for me was digestive upset and a lot of pain. And I eventually come to the conclusion that it was during the time of when quinoa was really popular, eating a lot of chickpeas. And I was still just experiencing extreme digestive pain. Like sometimes I would have that like feeling of trapped gas that's in your upper abdomen. Along that journey, I'd also self-discovered that I was pre-diabetic. So I decided to get even more serious about a ketogenic diet and was able to reverse things. I was able to get my blood sugar at a more stable level. My mood was stabilized, and I just, everything was great. I felt wonderful. Fast forward into August of 2020, woke up one morning with severe abdominal pain. And I've had an ectopic pregnancy in the past that had ruptured. So I know what that pain feels like. And it was the same pain. And so I told my husband, I don't know what's going on, but I think I need to go to the emergency room. 24 hours later, I had emergency surgery for my intestines had ruptured, had my sigmoid colon removed. All the while, it was thought during that entire time that it was diverticulitis. That's what I kept being told. And pathology was delayed for 2 weeks. So I didn't know. That surgery left me with an ileostomy. I go home from the hospital with an ileostomy, and that was very difficult having that experience. I don't regret it, but it was difficult. 2 weeks later, I go back to the surgeon to have the initial incision, the staples removed. It's stage 3 colon cancer. There was an 8-centimeter tumor embedded in the section of colon that we removed, and you have positive lymph nodes. It was, probably about 48 hours of just complete shock because I really had no symptoms prior to that. From there, I made a decision to just sort of go back into my resources from everything that I had learned about cancer and watching my father-in-law, who, we had just lost to the exact same cancer diagnosis. I did meet with an oncologist and was, told I needed to rush into 24 rounds of chemotherapy, 2 different types of chemotherapy, 12 rounds each, so 24 rounds. That instinctively I knew, wait a minute, I need to slow the train here and just go back to my resources with everything else. And, I'm very spiritual, so pray about this, seek guidance, and tap into all the resources that I've learned from over the years. And ironically, Dr. Baker, I had just bought your book June before I was diagnosed, The Carnivore Diet, which I had read. So I met with some functional medicine. I sought out some functional medicine practitioners, and I met with one where we did some genetic testing. It's called RGCC. Not a lot of people are familiar with it. It's not a test that's done here in the United States. It's actually done in Switzerland and Greece. You send your blood overseas, et cetera. But it came back that cancer, obviously we know, is a metabolic disease, and that I needed to do a therapeutic ketogenic diet. And I was so relieved. That's what I did. I stuck to the strict therapeutic ketosis. But what I noticed is the more I eliminated plants, the better my numbers got, the better all of my labs, my CEA levels continued to decline. My CEA levels were actually always low, but they continued to decline and then, normalize at, we'll just say, an average of 1.6 or 1.7. Anything under 5 is considered, normal. I had, of course, elevated liver enzymes. I had inflammation, that sort of thing. But the more I eliminated plants, the better I felt, the quicker my healing. We got to the 8-week mark, and he stated that he was not going to reverse my ileostomy until I completed chemo. So I fired him and found another surgeon. And at 16 weeks, I was able to get the ileostomy reversed. I recovered beautifully. There's a lot of scare with people that have their ileostomies reversed, that they have chronic diarrhea. They have just a lot of digestive upsets when you're waking up the bowel again. I had none of that. in solidarity with him, I started juicing a little bit. And I would do juice fasts, and I would do vegetable juice, very, very little fruit. I would do mostly greens and ginger and lemon and, maybe some beets and that sort of thing. And I felt terrible. The vegetarian was honestly to, lose some vanity weight. I thought it was the best way to get ready for a vacation. And I just, that right after that is when I discovered that I was pre-diabetic, because that's when I felt my worst. When I eliminated even more and just kept it really, really tight to maybe a little bit of zucchini, some avocado, but mostly just fatty meats, I was able to achieve that deep therapeutic ketosis that I needed to be in for the healing. And I felt great. I felt energy. I mean, that's been the blessing through all of it, especially, with more animal products, is the way I feel, the energy that I have, the mental clarity. I had to take very little time off from work. There was a time after I had my ileostomy reversed, my ferritin levels plummeted. And we're not really sure why that happened, because I did not have low ferritin at the time of diagnosis. So the oncologist wanted me to do an iron infusion. I had learned from a friend that I had made in one of these support groups, that she had done an iron infusion and how bad it messed her up. And so I said, I would like a month or two to correct this on my own. I just, did my internet search. What's the best way to increase iron, and obviously liver. So every day I was eating a bag of carnivore crisps, the liver crisps. I'm from the South, so we eat liver mush. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but I went to my local fresh market and I found a really good organic liver pate, and I was eating that. And I was also taking a liquid iron supplement, and just increased my amounts of red meat. Within 60 days, my ferritin increased to 38. And so the oncologist, he just I was like, so I don't need to do the iron infusion. And he was like, no. He's like, what did you do? And I said, I ate a lot of liver. The response was, oh gosh, liver is really high in cholesterol. You need to be careful. I asked the oncologist, I said, what is the prognosis? If I do chemotherapy, if I don't do chemotherapy? The prognosis was, without chemotherapy, you have a 30 to 40% chance of recurrence. With chemotherapy, you have a 20% chance of recurrence for something that could potentially take my life, because chemotherapy, while it is life-saving for some, it is life-ending for others. And watching my father-in-law go through 2 rounds of chemotherapy, I knew there was no way I was going to do that.
Your wound didn't heal. How did it heal? I mean, did you include more meat in the diet? Did that make a difference in healing, or how
I'm
did that?
so glad you asked. So when I went back to that surgeon, and this was the same surgeon that refused to do the reversal until I had chemo, his nurse practitioner who was helping remove the staples, I'm laying on the table and she looked at me. She said, you need to eat a lot of protein. It is very healing. You had mentioned having the bag. Well, when I would eat vegetables, that's exactly what I would find in the bag. And, having to empty it was quite messy, and it was just very encumbersome. Moving into the wound healing process, that it bought me time, honestly. And that's where we just decided, okay, we're going to eat a lot of eggs because it's an easy protein to digest. They did tell me, don't eat a lot of steak, because with an ileostomy, you do run the risk of blockage. And so you want to make sure that everything does get liquefied in the small and in your stomach. But that was a testimony to me, because when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, there is no meat in my bag. There's no way that meat can rot in the gut. Like it's just liquid. If I would just eat a meat meal. And so that's how I decided right then and there, okay, meat is healing. um, you know, and so I just started eating a lot of ground beef. It healed really quickly. The more protein that I consumed, the more healing I got.
I'm really surprised. I think that meat is going to clog an ileostomy too, because you talk to any gastroenterologist, I mean, they will just tell you, they never find meat in the colon. They may find bits of vegetables and, things like that, and seeds and hunks of nuts and stuff like that. They never find steak. It's just complete nonsense.
No, I mean, in the past, I've definitely been guilty of calorie restriction. But when I gave myself free range to just eat whatever I wanted, I went in cold. I mean, I just went all in. It was such a relief. I've been in the world of, tracking everything and journaling everything, and it's just so exhausting. I just really eat until I'm full, and then I stop eating.
Great.
My oncologist, when I told him that I completely refused all chemotherapy, but I asked, I said, "Will you still, consider monitoring?" And of course, he agreed. We went to a 3 month plan where we do labs every 3 months, and then we do imaging every 3 months. Labs always came back great. They steadily improved, especially my liver enzymes and just various things, my ferritin that I talked about earlier. I just actually had an appointment with the oncologist last week. They started actually doing a new test, and it's some sort of DNA test specifically for colon cancer. I've done one, and then I just did another one. I haven't gotten the results back for that one yet, but the first one, that nothing was detected. No tests have shown anything since diagnosis, except for the original RGCC. I did still have circulating tumor cells and circulating cancer cells, and that was my goal. Is okay, I need to help my immune system go in and attack these things so I don't develop cancer somewhere else, because the seeds had left the ship essentially, with having positive lymph nodes. And I've done other therapies, with that, a lot of sauna and grounding and exercise. And I mean, there's not one way to really heal yourself with cancer. It's multifaceted, and you have to stay on top of it, consistently. With the oncologist, he just told me, he's like, let's just move you to an annual monitoring, and everything. I mean, there's nothing he can argue with me about. There's nothing coming up. There's nothing he can say. My weight is good. I have gained a little bit of weight, and he calls it, he's like, I know as a woman, you don't want to hear this. He's like, but you've gained weight, but it's healthy weight. And so he's really pleased with that. There's no cachexia. There's nothing showing. And I have had a colonoscopy since then too. I had a colonoscopy in October of last year, and it was all clear. He has really no comment. I mean, he's happy for me, but he's not really the type that thinks that diet has a big impact. I always say going to the oncologist is one of my favorite appointments and one of my least favorite appointments, because I usually walk away with good, no news is good news. Least favorite is because, I see the other people there, and you desperately want to share what you know with them. Absolutely. I mean, just being clear-headed. I have energy. I'm 47 years old. I don't really have any of the perimenopause symptoms that my younger friends are experiencing. I have people message me all the time, looking, help me. Can what are you doing here? What do you recommend for this? Sadly, they won't execute media, but in some of the support groups that I was in. And, sadly, I had to leave those support groups just for my own mental wellness, because even in those groups, there are people who just can't accept anything that's different from their way of thinking, and they go on attack mode. And there was just a lot of things that I was seeing inside of those groups. But I had made several friends that also had colon cancer, that also had ileostomies, and I will say that sadly, all of them are no longer with us. And so I know that I'm very, very, very fortunate. I don't take any of it for granted. I do, like I said, I'm a spiritual person. I do believe in higher power. And I know that, healing comes from God, whether it's on earth or whether it's in heaven. And for whatever reason, in addition to this, he gave me the tools and the knowledge to be able to use it. And And I'm just, I just want to share with other people. And I'm very grateful for this platform and giving me the opportunity to do that. But I do, want to share with other people. I'm really no one special. I didn't do anything special. I've watched so many people battle it, and everybody's touched by cancer in some way. If it's not going to be, and this is what I tell everybody, if it's not going to be you, it's going to be someone you love, because of the world that we live in, unfortunately. And do what you can now to strengthen yourself or to be able to combat it now. Get rid of the sugars, get rid of the artificial crap, get rid of the dyes, get rid of, anything that might be causing you issues. And even if it's quote unquote healthy foods that you think, like sweet potatoes or, spinach and quinoa and all these things, just do an elimination diet. This is what I tell everybody. Just try it for 30 days and you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We developed a plan where basically every 2 days I did something different, and it was mostly with supplements. And taking pancreatic enzymes, just various things that would, target the different cancer pathways, because yes, cancer does feed off of sugar, but it also can feed off of glutamate or glutamine, which is in every single food. And so it was basically a way where we're, hitting the cancer really hard this way. And then the next 2 days we're hitting it this way. And then the next 2 days we're hitting it this way. And it was every 2 days I would change, and I would do that for 4 weeks. And then the next month I would do something completely different, same type of procedure every 2 days. And then the third month I would do something different. And it included things like high dose IV vitamin C. So I would go for 2 days a week to a local doctor's office and receive anywhere from 35 to 50 grams of high dose IV vitamin C. And then, but the whole time staying in therapeutic ketosis, and then, change to different and varying supplements. So that's sort of the press pulse that was for me. My test was based on my cancer and my test results. And so I was very guilty of taking a lot of unnecessary supplements before that could have been harming me. And now have learned a very valuable lesson. So now I don't give people advice on supplements whatsoever, beyond like maybe a D3, K2, and cod liver oil. The rest of it, I'm like, you really need to work with someone to figure out if this is truly what you need.